In the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 5, Moses and the Israelites are standing at the doorstep of the Promised Land, ready to go in. And in the first 4 chapters of Deuteronomy, Moses has just reminded them of the history that they just lived, going through the wilderness, reminding them of important lessons they needed to remember as they went into the future. But in chapter 5, there's a little bit of shift in what Moses reminds them of. He's not reminding them so much of the history, though it will come up, you'll see that. He reminds them of a lot of the laws that God passed on to them. And in Deuteronomy chapter 5, he reminds them of maybe the most famous laws of all, the 10 Commandments. And before he lists the 10 Commandments, he says, you remember that the Lord made a covenant with us. And you know what a covenant is? A covenant it's a promise. It's when 2 groups make promises to each other. It's like what happens at a wedding. When a husband and a wife promise to be faithful to each other, promise that they will not fail to love one another, no matter what happens. And covenants are great, as long as nobody fails to keep their promise. But when somebody does, well, people can hurt a lot. So thinking outside of weddings, or maybe including weddings, I guess, what has failed you just this year so far? What has failed to fill you with the joy that you were anticipating? With the optimism that you thought you once had a right to? Or who has failed you? Who has failed to keep a promise? Who's failed to be there for you? Who's failed to live up to their end of the covenant? Are you picturing somebody else? Or are you picturing you? Because just in this short new year already, it's possible that you can look back and see that you are the one who failed to keep a promise too. And all of those hurt so much. Which is why it's important to know 2 things that we will see as we continue to go through the book of Deuteronomy. 1, the Israelites failed to keep their promise to God a lot. A lot. Sometimes so much so that God was tempted to want nothing to do anything more with them. But the second thing that you'll see is that despite that, God always kept his promise. He didn't fail to love them. He never failed to be there for them. He never failed to keep his promise to be their God. Just as he did not fail to love you. He did not fail to forgive you. He did not fail to be everything you needed him to be. As he hung on a cross so many years later, and he showed us what a beautiful thing it is to be in a covenant with a God like ours. It's beautiful because we know that whatever condition we're in, however much we're hurting, whatever we've lost, even if we are the ones who caused the hurt, even if we were the ones who were lost, God will never fail to be there for you. Today and tomorrow, and for as many days as he gives us. So rest well tonight, my friends. God will not fail to be there for you.